Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're joining us from. Welcome to Techneon's The Greatest of Tableau webinar series. Today's topic is a preview of Tableau 10.0 and will be presented by Tableau's two-time Zen Master and Social Ambassador, Joshua Milligan. At the end of today's webinar, we will be having a question and answer time. So if you want to stick around for that or submit your questions, please feel free to do that during the webinar. Your presenter today is with Techneon Data Solutions. Techneon is a 17-year-old business intelligence consultancy that's focused on providing BI strategy and leadership, helping clients and customers with data integration, visualization, and analytic solutions, providing products and skills training across a variety of products, and helping with custom application development in areas such as BI and reporting portals. Techneon has strong partnerships with Tableau, Warescape, and Alteryx, and these provide a very agile approach to business intelligence and makes us a leader in providing input and receiving previews like you will see today. So it's with this strong history and background in business intelligence that we are pleased to present today's webinar. Today's speaker is Joshua Milligan. As I said, he's been with Techneon for over 12 years as a technology consultant and is a two-time Tableau Zen Master. If you're not familiar with that award, it's an award bestowed on only 21 people in the world by Tableau. Joshua is also a Tableau Social Ambassador for his work in and around the Tableau community and is the author of the book Learning Tableau. So with that introduction, Joshua, let me turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone for joining today. It's an honor to present and to show off some of the features of Tableau 10. I am excited about Tableau 10. It's an incredible release. It's in beta right now, but it is in the fourth beta, and from what I can understand, that seems like it may be the last beta, so we are just weeks away from the production release of Tableau 10, and it's got a lot of incredible new features that it's gonna make life a lot easier, and it already was easy with Tableau, but Tableau 10 just raises the bar once again. And so I'm excited today to show you some of the features in Tableau 10. And I say some of the features because there are way too many features for me to cover in an hour-long webinar. In fact, I counted 40 major features, and that doesn't even include some of the minor things that make life a lot easier as well. So I'll cover some of them. You see the ones in green; those are the ones that you'll either see or experience in this presentation. The ones in blue I may mention here and now, but you'll have to read up, and you'll have to get as excited about them as I am on your own. But I've broken it down into some categories here. In fact, I borrowed these from Tableau, but the real focus in this release, you'll notice, is the analytics, Tableau server and online, the data, and then a real focus also on just making things beautiful and really pleasant to look at. You'll notice we're looking at Tableau 10 here. In fact, I'm going to do the entire presentation out of Tableau 10. This is the interface, and you'll see everything has been completely redesigned. New icons on the toolbars and elsewhere, new fonts, new integration of titles and dashboards, and we'll take a look at a lot of the new features around dashboards. But Tableau 10 is just amazing to look at. It's beautiful. And then there's been a focus on mobile as well. So things like the new Android app, which is great because I'm not an iPhone user, and so being able to have an app to log into Tableau server on my Android phone is wonderful as well. So it's a light green feature, so I'll show you a picture. But we won't get into a whole lot of the mobile or Tableau server or online in this presentation. I'll focus a lot on desktop. But you'll notice there are some great things in Tableau server and online. So data source analytics, if you're looking at your data source list on Tableau server, now you can see things like how many people are using this, how many workbooks are using this, how often are they used. A lot of those analytics are built right into the interface in Tableau server. Things like revision history. So Tableau 9.3 introduced the versioning of workbooks. Every time you publish a workbook, it saves a version, and you could download those versions. But Tableau 10 takes it a step further. You can get the entire history, and you can restore any one of those versions that you've uploaded. So that's a great feature. You'll notice here under data, we're going to cover a lot of the new data features, such as cross data source filters. So one of the sticking points in Tableau has long been the fact that if I have multiple data sources, how do I filter all of them at once? There were some workarounds, but now Tableau has cross data source filtering, makes life a lot easier. Cross database join, that's probably one of my favorite features, one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, because there are just so many situations you get into where, if I could just join in a spreadsheet to my SQL Server data, or if I could just take Oracle and join a table from SQL Server, I'd be great. Well, now I can. So that's going to be amazing. Google Sheets, you could get to it from the Web Data Connector, but you either had to build your own Web Data Connector or use someone else's. But now the ability to connect to Google Sheets right there in Tableau, and then some other features, on-demand connections. So Tableau will only connect to the things that it needs to when you open a dashboard, rather than all the connections in the workbook. There's a new QuickBooks connector. There's all kinds of new data sources. And then unions, which were introduced in Tableau 9.3. Well, you'll notice there's a new wildcard feature, which means before I had to tell it which files I wanted to union together very specifically. Now I can tell it which file name pattern I want to use to join together all the files in a given directory. So that's a great update to the union wildcard, to the union feature, the union wildcard. Analytics. So automatic geographic roles, Tableau gets even smarter about assigning those roles. And then we're going to see things like clustering today, continuous bar charts and bins, the sizing on bars. Custom territories, I'll show that to you. There are some other things in here, like you can use groups in calculations. That's a great thing. I won't necessarily show it, but before, you could make groups, but I always avoided it because I could never use them in a calculation. Well, now Tableau's underlying framework will support that, and it's just an incredible thing. The highlighter, I'll show that. Level of detail dimensionality. So if you're creating level of detail calculations, now you can create those row level calculations wrapped up into your code for the level of detail. That makes it a little bit easier. Lots of new map data. Some new things on radial distance units, and we may even look at some of that, even though it's not green, but if I remember, I'll try to show that. And table calculations get a whole new interface and a whole new way of highlighting tables and showing you what's going on behind the scenes. So lots of great features for analytics, lots of great features for Tableau server. APIs, I won't be showing any of that, but if you're excited about writing code that interacts with Tableau, everything gets an update here. So there's a new document API for working with Tableau workbooks. You can programmatically alter your workbooks now with that API. The Web Data Connector gets completely revamped, and then improvements to the JavaScript and REST APIs. Some really great things. I mentioned the beautiful. You're seeing the new interface. You'll see some of the new fonts. You'll see the seamless titles. You'll see the workbook formatting. In fact, the workbook formatting, if I go up here to Format, notice there is a new menu option here called Workbook. And Now it can control the default fonts for everything in this entire workbook. No more building a sheet as a template and then trying to copy it and remembering to keep using that. Now it can control everything at a workbook level. I would expect that the feature set here is going to become even richer and fuller as we see some of the minor releases of Tableau 10. For now, it's just the fonts, but be watching this because I think there's going to be a lot more formatting that comes along. And then mobile, we'll definitely take a look at designing for mobile when it comes to dashboards. Let me jump right in. So one of the new features that really caught my eye right off is the fact that you can build your own custom territories now. So if I'm using a data set, Tableau does a great job of identifying my geographic information, things like country and states and cities and zip codes and all kinds of things. But one of the things that I get asked all the time by different clients is, how can I show a custom territory? So I've got custom sales territories or custom regions that I need to pay attention to in my business. How can I see those? Well, Tableau now supports the idea that I can take an existing geographic feature, and I'm going to switch it to a filled map just so we can kind of see what's going on and maybe even label things with sales. But I can take this existing geographic role of state, and I can start to group these things up. I'll show it with state. This would work with zip code or any of the recognized geographies. But let's say that I know that I've got 3 regions here in the United States. I've got a west region, so I'll select my west states and just group those up. I need to make sure that I include state in the group because that's what's defining my group. And this looks just like any previous version of Tableau with groups. I'm seeing color coding by the group, but everything's still broken down by state. So far, not much different here. And in fact, I might do something similar with the East region. I'll just grab all the states that belong to that East region and group those as well. So now I've got my groups. Tableau has created that as a new field here, country and state group. It's actually over here in the data pane as well. So I see that. But the one thing that I see here is that it also has a geographic indicator on the icon. And what that means is that Tableau knows that this is related to a geographic role. And we'll see why that's important here in a second. One thing that I like to do with groups is just edit some aliases. So if I know that this is my East region, and I know that this is my Central region, and this is West, I'll just give them those aliases. And things are looking pretty good, but I still have state in here, so all of my sales are reported state by state by state, because that's defining the level of detail. But the great thing now is that I take state out of the detail, and Tableau knows how to draw the new custom region. So I have my West region, but not only that, it knows how to aggregate to that region. So there's the sales for my West region. There's the sales for my Central region. And notice if I click and select, it selects the entire region, not just the individual states that were in that region. So this is an incredible thing, the fact that I can build these custom regions or these custom territories, and I can do it in an ad hoc way. I can just select and build those on the fly, just using a map of existing geographic features. But sometimes in your data, you already have a field that defines the region or the breakdown of territories. So for example, I might look at things by state, and let's do a filled map again. And I already have a field here called region that if I look at it, I see that I've got 4 regions here, so Central, East, South, West, and so I've already got a field. I've already got it in the data, what my regions are. Now I could come in here and drag and select the regions and group them up again. I could do it in an ad hoc way, and that would be just fine. But Tableau has made it even easier to take this region field and define it as a hierarchy or as a geographic field. Now the problem is that apparently I've already done that in practice. So let me real quick open up a data source where it's not done, and the new sheet. Now there's region just as a simple text field, and let's go back and build out the state here. Field map, region, and sales. And I come to region, and on the drop down now I see what I was looking for, and that is geographic role, which I could always change the role of a field before, tell it what geographic role it uses. But now I have a new menu item here, create from. And this allows me to tell Tableau to use an existing geographic field and use that to define the role of region. So if I tell it that region is defined by the states that make up the region, now I just have region still in the view here. Now when I take away state, I get my custom regions just like I would if I created it ad hoc, but I was able to do it straight from the data. And if I put state back in there, breaks it down by state again, take state out, and I'm back up to the region level. And I've been showing this as a filled map, but this works just as a shape map as well, so I could plot shapes. And what Tableau does then is it plots the shapes in the geographic center of that region. So that's the geographic center of all the states that made up the central region or the west region. And maybe zoom out to see the entire United States. But that's a pretty incredible feature, and it's something that is very flexible because I'm not tied into a certain type of geographic representation. I can use whatever type of map that I want, whether it's filled or shape or plotting anything on the map, but I can plot it now at that region level. So that's custom territories. Let's take a look at the sizing of bars. Now this is a feature that actually escaped my notice for a while. I didn't realize this was here. What I've got here is a data set just of students and grades. So if we look at it, it just looks something like this. So I have my students and I have the grade or the score that they got maybe on a test or something. And it's just 0 to 100, and maybe 90 to 100 is an A and 80 to 89 is a B. That sort of thing. One thing that I like to do with data like this is I like to create a histogram. And so a histogram allows me to see the distribution of students. How many students got A's or B's or C's? So lots of times in Tableau I find it easy just to use show me, but sometimes if I'm feeling ambitious, I'll try to do it on my own, and the way I'll do it is I will take the measure that I want, grade here, and say create bins. Tableau has gotten very intelligent about trying to guess the size of the bins based on the data that's present. Here, I think maybe a bin size of 10 points makes more sense. And I'll say OK. And then I can use this new bin field to create the histogram. So grades giving me the columns. So I see there's my 0 to 9.9, 10 to 10.9, so on, or 10 to 19.9, and so on. And then I can take my number of records, which in this data set is the same as the number of students, and now I get a nice distribution to understand where the students fell. And everything's great on this, but there are a couple of things that inevitably happen. So somebody looks at this, and it's not entirely obvious necessarily, unless I know, is that 20 to 29, or is that everybody who got 20, or what exactly is the bin? And the other thing is that I can get some really weird things. You'll notice that grade here is discrete. It's blue, which means these are just continuous buckets, or these are just buckets. They're not continuous, and that means that I can reorder them. So I could even sort by grade descending, and that's really kind of strange. 80, 90, 70, 60. So that order doesn't even make any sense. What Tableau 10 does is it gives me the ability to take these bins, which have always been discrete, but now I can make them continuous. And now I can get a histogram that flows. So this is no longer a bunch of headers. This is a single axis, can't be reordered, and it's very obvious to me now what these bars are. Here's 80, and it goes right up to almost 90. And here's 90, which goes up to 100. So now I can see exactly what these bars are. And eventually, it's not here in the beta yet, but a great feature that I'm really looking forward to is now that we have an axis, I anticipate being able to add reference lines. So if I wanted to see the overall average, I could add that as a reference line as well. Not available in this beta, but maybe sometime in the future. And the other really nice thing here is the sizing of the bars. So now that they are continuous bars, notice that I have on the size shelf, if I click that, I can switch between manual, which is the old way of seeing things. That's how it would look before, and fixed, which is a new way, which allows me to even set the width in terms of the axis units. Now, Tableau it knows the size of the bins, it knows that they're 10, which is great, but if I wanted to, for some reason, I could even say, keep those at units of 5, or maybe for some crazy reason 15. So it doesn't make sense with this data set, but it gives a lot of new ways of potentially looking at the data, and go back to automatic. And then you can align the bars as well. So do they start at 20 and go up 10 units, or do they go back 10 units? So you can center them, right or left justify the bars. Lots of different options on these new sizing of continuous bars. And it doesn't just work with dates or with bins, it also works with dates. So for example, if I come in here and I have a date, and I'm looking at order date, but I may want to look at it maybe quarter by quarter or month by month, or even at the day level. You'll notice Tableau is giving me some bars there, but let's look at just 1 month. So let's look at just maybe December 2014, and we'll look at sales, and we'll look at it as a bar chart. Tableau has very nicely sized those bars automatically. So now I'm telling it the width in days. Each bar automatically is 1 day in width. So starting with December 1st, it goes up to December 2nd, and then December 2nd to December 3rd. And the really great thing is that as I resize this viz, those bars stay nicely sized. They don't overlap. You'll remember in previous versions of Tableau, with the manual sizing method, you'll get something like that as you resize. Not necessarily the prettiest thing to look at, but the new sizing, you'll get something that works no matter where you put it. You put it on a small phone screen, it's going to look great. You put it on a desktop, it'll look great there as well. So I'm excited about this new way of sizing bars. I've probably spent more time on it than you care to see, but I'm excited about it. And something else that I am definitely excited about is the ability to connect directly to Google Sheets. So if you use Google Sheets, or even if you don't, you might start, because now there is a way to connect directly to Google Sheets from Tableau. So I say new data source, and I've used it enough. It shows up here even in my most commonly used, but otherwise you can find it in the list of all the new and previously supported connection types. I'll say Google Sheets. Prompts me to log in, so I do. And I get a list of all of the Google Sheets that I have access to, or I can even enter a URL if someone shared a Google Sheet with me, or there's one that's publicly available. I can get to it by URL. So here's a list of everything that I have, and if I click on one, I see a preview of it. I see when I last modified it, or who last modified it, and so all kinds of Google Sheets here. The one that I'm interested in here is this real estate Google Sheet. So I select that one, I say connect. And this screen looks very familiar. This is the data connection or data source screen, and this is a preview of the Google Sheets data. So I've got things like the address, and then things I might want to measure about the address for real estate concerns, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, how large the house is in square feet, what the price is, and then some descriptions. But the great thing is that this connection is live. So I didn't have to extract this from Google. Tableau is connected live, and if I logged on to Google and I started changing the sheet and I refreshed, I'm going to see that data come straight through. Now I can extract it if I want to, but I don't have to. The other thing that I'm really excited about in Tableau 10 is the ability to add new connections right here in the data source screen. And so if I add a connection, I can then join together. So I've got my data of addresses, but one thing that I might want to do is take some of the geocoded data that I've got stored elsewhere. I've got it here in Excel. So I open up my Excel document, and you'll see that Tableau is keeping a running list of my connections for this data source. So I started out with Google Sheets. I now have a geocoding data source, which is from Excel. And since there was only one sheet there, Tableau said, well, I'll automatically place that in the data connection and join it together. And if I look, I can join between data sources. So different tables, different sheets of Excel, different flat files. And it's got the same interface that I've come to expect from joining data within a single data source. But now I'm able to join things together. So if you have data in SQL Server and you want to join in some custom data from Excel, no problem. If you have data in Oracle and you have data in MySQL and you need to join some tables together between those two, no problem. So right here I've got it joined together, and Tableau has made a really nice interface. I can easily identify the different color coding of the connections, and I can even see which fields came from which table by the color coding. And as if that wasn't enough, as if it wasn't enough that I'm connected live to Google Sheets and I'm joining in data from Excel, I still have all of the features here that I would normally expect too. Things like pivot, or hiding, or creating calculated fields. So I can do all of that on the fly right here in my data source screen, and then once everything's ready, then I'm going to go and start to plot this data. So I've got my addresses and joined in some geocoding. So of course I'm excited to create a map with my new latitude and longitude fields that I brought in. One thing I might do on this map, just to make things a little bit easier to see, is go to the layers, and we'll make it normal, and we'll just add in some streets and highways and borders of counties and zip codes and who knows what else. And then I'll bring in address just so we can see all of the individual houses there. And then I can start to do my analysis. I can say, well, what about the price of these homes? Or what about the number of bedrooms of each of these homes? So all of these things were things that I could do before. But what Tableau has introduced is the ability to do some even deeper analysis. I can now do something called clustering. I'll come back to the map, and we'll see how clusters can be applied there as well. But just to show it off, I'm going to start a new visualization with the same data. So one of my analysis questions might be, how does the square feet, how does the area of the home relate to the price of the home? So I expect that the bigger the house, the more expensive the house, but let's see if that makes sense. I'll build out a scatter plot. So each one of these marks is an individual address, and I've got the size of the house increasing as we go to the right, the price increasing as we go to the top, and it definitely looks like there is a pattern there. As square footage increases, the price increases, so that's kind of what I would expect. Now, just for presentation purposes, I'm going to switch to showing this as these circles and maybe give them a little bit of transparency since there's some overlap, and a border for the circles just to make them pop out a little bit. So Tableau has always given me this ability to understand the relationship between two different variables. So here, area and price. But what I have now is the ability to start to understand even more of the relationship and bring in other variables as well. And I can do that using clustering. So I switch over here to the Analytics tab, and under the model is this new feature called Cluster. I'll drag and drop that out here on the table. And what Tableau has done is it has applied clustering to everything that's in this view. So each of these addresses now falls within one of three clusters. And I have the ability to customize this, so I can tell it how many clusters I want. I could change that to 4 different clusters if I felt like it. 3 different clusters is probably fine. 43 is probably way too much. Switch it back to 3. And you can see this really kind of makes sense. You can see that it makes sense. Here's one cluster of data here with the blue. Here's another cluster with the orange. And it relates exactly to the scatter plot, at least for now, because I'm using the same variables. Tableau has picked up the measures and it has applied those to the cluster. But I can add other variables. So I might say, you know, understanding the relationship between the area and the price is important, but I also know that sometimes the number of bedrooms or the number of bathrooms can make a difference as well. So I can simply add that to the definition of the cluster. And you'll notice things changed a little bit. In fact, I'm now seeing some blue circles up here encroaching on the orange space, and I can see some orange ones down here. And if we go ahead and add the number of bedrooms here to the tooltip just so we can see it, notice this orange one has 5 bedrooms, so that might be a house I'm kind of interested in. It's lower price, a little bit lower square footage, but it's got more bedrooms than the rest of the blue ones around it. And if I come up here to some of these blue ones, they're a little bit higher square footage, they're a little bit higher price, but they've got fewer bedrooms. So you can see how bedrooms has impacted the clustering, and it allows me to do a deeper analysis of my data. But then I might think, well, I've got the cluster defined the way that I want it, so I'll close that out. And now I want to use that cluster across multiple different views. I want to see these same clusters maybe back on the map. So I can take this new clusters field that's shown up on color, and I take that and drag that back over here to the data pane, and Tableau creates a new group based on that cluster. So here, address, clusters, and I'll just keep that name, and then I can drag that back over here and replace clusters with that. What I've done is I've solidified that, so now it's not going to be recalculating the cluster all the time, but I've got the clusters that I'm interested in, and I can even come in here and edit the aliases just like we did before. So these blue ones are probably, for me, the orange ones are probably not for me, and the red ones, which are way too expensive but probably very nice, well, I can dream. Now I come back to my map and I grab those clusters, that address cluster, and I can drag and drop that on the color. And now I start to see some very interesting things, because now I see the relationship of the geography and the geographic location and how that impacts the cluster as well. In fact, if you do a cluster on a map, you can even grab latitude and longitude and add that to the clustering and do some geospatial analysis. But really interesting, so I can kind of see some of the neighborhoods that are probably beyond me, but there are a few houses that I might take a look at in those neighborhoods. So all kinds of fun things that I can do with this kind of analysis. And just a side trip, but you'll remember one of the new features was that radial, the new radius units and selection. So you've seen before that you can get like the number of miles on a radius on a selection. Well, some people don't use miles. Some people use other units, which is fine. Probably to be admired. But you can switch to metric if you'd like. And now I'm looking in meters and kilometers. So kind of a neat new feature there. All right, so I've got my map, I've got my cluster, and I've started to do a little bit of the analysis, and I'm kind of excited about finding the new house that might be great for me to live in, or giving someone else a tool to do some analysis and find a house that they might be interested in. So I'm ready to start putting this together in a dashboard, and I'll switch over here to the dashboard, and we'll start to build it out. I'm going to rename my sheet here just to call it the map. So I've got my map and my clustering, and I start to bring that out into the dashboard. And building the dashboard at first seems very similar. That's the way that we've always done it, and I can rearrange things. So still drag and drop, still move things around if I want to. Maybe not show the title there. And I've got some other things that I can do here as well. One thing that I might want to add is the concept of a data highlighter. So this is new in Tableau 10, and you'll see it shows up here in the list of options where I could add legends and filters before. Now I can highlight based on a field in the data. And the field that I really want isn't here, so let's go back to the map. The field that I thought might be interesting is this description field. So I do need to add that here into the view. And in fact, I'll do it right here first. So let's show the highlighter. What the highlighter lets me do is it lets me pick one of these descriptions to highlight it on the map. And so you'll see where it's highlighting it. Or as I start to type, it will find all of the descriptions that have pool in them. So there are all the houses that have a pool or a patio. There are all the houses that are stunning. So all kinds of things that I can do with that highlighter. It gives me the ability to highlight data and not just filter it. So I still get to see the broader context, but it allows me to see it here as well. And I can take that same concept back to the dashboard, add that highlighter here, so highlight address, and now, well, there's the address highlighted, which is great, but actually I didn't mean the address. I wanted to do the description as well, highlight the description. So here are all the houses again with a pool as they appear on the map. And if I added that description here as well, now back on the dashboard, now I get all of them highlighted in both views. So the highlighter is going to be an incredible thing for interface and for being able to show data that is of interest, but show it within the context of all the data, or at least a broader subset of the data. So that's the highlighter. Now, as I start to build out my dashboard, the thing that always comes up is, especially as the first the first thing that I usually have to think about is, am I designing this for a desktop? Am I designing this to publish it on the web? Am I designing this for a phone or a tablet? And I always had to make that decision, and I always had to select the size of my dashboard as the first thing. And you'll see size is still here. It's moved up to the top, but that's because it's become a little bit more important. So I've got, I've got the ability to say, okay, I want to show this for a desktop. You'll see here all my different sizing options. Just like before, I can choose to be fixed size or automatic to have it stretch out. And this is all great. This is what we've seen before. But the really exciting thing is the fact that now I can design for different devices. So this device preview button, if I click on that, I can see how it would look on a tablet. In fact, I can get very specific and I can decide what kind of tablet, iPad or Google Nexus or Samsung Galaxy. Tableau knows all of the resolutions for these different tablets. We'll just stick with the generic one for now. But the great thing is that I can take that and I can say, let's add that as a layout for this dashboard. So I'm going to add tablet as one of my layouts. If I look at how it looks on a phone, wow, things are getting really kind of scrunched up. But I'm going to go ahead and add a phone layout. But I'm going to make it different. On the phone, I'm going to take out clustering. I'm going to move my highlight description to the top here, and let's go ahead and add back in that color legend that disappeared. Well, don't have it, so I won't worry about that one. But this will work fine for the phone and the default, which is great, and the desktop. So now, notice that each one of these can be totally customized. So back on the tablet, I can customize how that would look. So maybe I'll float the color legend over here and take that highlight description and float it over here. But that didn't change how it looks on the phone. On the phone, it still looks like this dashboard. But it's the same dashboard. It just allows me to create it for different devices. And then when someone's looking at it with the device, when they're looking at it on Tableau server or they're logging in the Tableau public, especially when they're using the app is going to tell Tableau what kind of device it is, and Tableau is going to respond by showing it correctly. So someone looks at it with a phone, they're going to see this. Someone looks at it with a tablet, they're going to see this. Otherwise, they might see the default, which sort of stretches it out like this. So that's an incredible, exciting feature about Tableau. And for today, I think that'll be the last one that I get to. But I'm definitely open to questions, and I see that we've got some. But we'll hold that till the very end.
Wow, thank you, Joshua. Hopefully today's preview of Tableau 10 has increased your excitement about the upcoming release and whet your appetite to get your hands on this new version that will be coming out, as I understand, very soon. If you've heard some things today but would like to go a bit deeper, as a Tableau Gold partner, Technion can help you. If you're just getting started with Tableau, it may be that some training or some best practice consulting or maybe some customized training using Josh's book, Learning Tableau, would be helpful to you. Or maybe you need some help with your Tableau dashboard development, building dynamic and interactive dashboards that help tell a powerful data story, or maybe just taking better advantage of Tableau 10 when it comes out. Technion can help you. Or maybe you have Tableau server, but you need help getting it set up or upgraded, or maybe tuning the performance on that server. We would love to help you with that. Or if you have a Tableau environment, but you want to scale it throughout your organization utilizing the Tableau Drive methodology, we are here to help you. Or maybe you have Tableau but are struggling with your data and getting it connected, or it's not trusted, or it's disorganized, and you'd like to understand how a data warehouse could help you, or where data warehouse automation could speed your maturity in business intelligence. Or maybe help with blending multiple data sources using Tableau or Alteryx. Or maybe it's developing a data strategy that helps you build a business intelligence roadmap for your organization. For any of these needs, Technion is here to serve you and to help you with your data and with your analytics needs. And we would encourage you to reach out to Joshua or to one of us utilizing the phone numbers or the web address or the email address that is there on the bottom of your screen. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We'll help make sure that you're invited to next month's webinar, which I understand is going to be centered around a preview of the Tableau Ironman contest. And so if you're still thinking about participating in that, you won't want to miss next month's webinar. I'd like to hand it back to Josh. I understand we have a few questions here, and we'll let him answer some of the questions. If you have a question and want to submit that, go ahead and submit that now.
Yeah, so if you have a question, go ahead and just type it into the questions interface there. I see a couple. The first one is from Randy, and he asks about OLAP joins. So I would love it if that was possible, but it's unfortunately not. The architecture of OLAP, I think, is what prevents that. So OLAP, which is cubes, they do not store data row by row, which is intentional because it's storing the measure values at the intersections of dimensions, and that's what made cubes so attractive. Back in the day when hardware wasn't quite up to churning through large volumes of data. But now OLAP can still be great. It can still be very performant, but all of that analytical capacity really is reserved for OLAP itself. And so when you start to use Tableau with it, I know sometimes I feel a little bit frustrated because I'm like, yeah, I could just build some calculations, do some joins, life would be great. Well, OLAP expects all of that to be built into the cube itself. So unfortunately, no joins there. Sorry. Hopefully, OLAP. Hopefully, you can get the data in there that you need. Would Google Sheets, Eric asked, would that be available for the desktop version? Not the professional version, but the one that costs about $1,000. So yeah, there's a desktop professional and then a not professional version. I don't really know the answer. That's a good one for a Tableau rep, or bring that directly to Technion and we can help you figure that out. But I don't know that right off. Is it possible to get a copy of this presentation? So yes, it is. We will put this out on Technion's YouTube channel, and if you follow Technion on Twitter, so the @TechnionDS, we'll announce that as soon as it's out there. Hugh asks, are there any enhancements to the custom SQL connection or the initial SQL database connection? So the custom SQL, not that I know of. I think that's the same interface, and the initial SQL, I don't recall that I've seen anything new there, but definitely check it out. And there may yet be, from the beta, there may yet be changes and enhancements that I haven't even seen yet. All right, well, I think that wraps up all the questions, at least all of them that I see. If you have any additional ones, I'd be happy to interact with you on Twitter or send them into Technion. I know that I would love to answer any additional ones that you might have. But it's been great to have you all here. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.